Hello, everybody. I am really excited to come on today to have a sort of juicy discussion and conversation and talk about divination and about predicting the future and channeling for the future and what it means to be an oracle. So this is a topic that feels incredibly timely and hot for me right now because so every year around this time of year, for the last 3 years, I offer a once a year reading, which this year I'm calling it a sacred map. I'm going to go way more into the details of that much later, and which provides a map of the next year of a person's life. So we're at the end of 2018, and so this year it's all about 2019, and so we're going into the future, and we're actually looking at the future. And every year in the past that I've done this is the interesting thing, is that I hadn't fully questioned for myself how it works, how that me predicting, using divination, accessing my oracle abilities and channeling, what I was actually doing, right? So I had this wonderful, amazing conversation with a client of mine, Kim. Kim, if you're watching, I'm giving you a little shout out. And where she actually asked me, like, what makes your maps, in the past I've called them forecasts, what makes them different? What exactly are you doing? And it really forced me to question that for myself and to explore exactly what is involved in the process. And I sort of completely, utterly unearthed it and was able to answer it. Because in the past, I would sort of be like, I sort of came to this place of like, well, I know it works and that's all that's important. I know it's true and that's all that's important because all my clients say so. And I do it for myself too. And I can see that it works, right? And so I'm really thrilled to have this opportunity to talk about like why it works, how it works, and get into the juicy meat of it. Okay. We have Morgan here. Hey, Morgan, how are you? We have Joe here. Hey, Joe. And we have Amber. Thank you guys for joining live. If you're coming on live, feel free to say hi. I'm glad that you're joining. And if you're watching the replay on Facebook, please also let me know that you're watching the replay and feel free to comment along. And I'll definitely catch those comments later. All right. So the thing about the reason why I didn't know how to answer the question before is because usually when we think about the future, we think about it in terms of we all have free will, right? And so it's unpredictable. There's millions of people on this earth with free will, and they're all making choices every day, and that leads to gazillions of different possibilities of what can happen. And so what I realized when I really started to dig into this question of predicting for the future and how and why it works was that there is a paradox. And so often in my spiritual work and practice, whenever I discover a paradox, I know like, oh, I've just hit upon something really juicy and I'm hitting upon like the deepest truth there is, right? Because paradoxes definitely open us up to deep spiritual truth. So I found a paradox. And that paradox is that, yes, each of us has free will. And we make choices every day, and those choices are often unpredictable. And also, we have a spiritual path and a spiritual destiny that is already set up for us. And so how do those two meet, right? And that's where the juiciness happens, because when we first think about that, it seems like they clash. It seems like that creates a contradiction. And there's actually not a contradiction. It's a beautiful paradox that creates something really amazing. So we're going to talk about that. Hey, Flora, thanks for joining just after you finished your own live. Thank you. Okay, so before we dive in further into that, I want to talk about just some definitions. And as I'm sharing my definitions for these words, I know there's some incredibly intuitive women who are watching this video right now. And so feel free to share your own definitions. I decided not to go to a dictionary for this because I didn't really see the point of that. So I'm just going to share sort of how I define these different terms, because some of us watching this video aren't going to know anything about this. And so I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page or on similar pages, right? And so we're sort of knowing what we're talking about. Okay, so the first word, divination. So what does divination mean? And when I felt into this, divination means to me predicting without inscrutable evidence. So inscrutable evidence are the things that are in our culture, in our world for the last, I don't know how many hundreds of years, is sort of how we've, or maybe even 100 years, how we have determined that something is true and right. So scientific process, the legal process in this country. And so when we have physical evidence that proves something is correct and is correct, is a fact, right? So divination, instead of using factorial evidence, uses other means of predicting. So in divination, we use messages from our environment. We call this synchronicities. We use visions. We use our own psychic abilities and visions of literally seeing it and hearing it within ourselves, with our inner mind, with our inner ears. We use just a sense of knowing, intuitive knowing. So we use our intuition when we just know something. And when we know something, that it can come on as a feeling, right? We can get goosebumps. We can feel really calm and grounded when we come into that knowing. And then we can use tools. We can use tarot cards and oracle cards. We can use a pendulum. We can use runes. There's so many different intuitive tools, and actually any object can become an intuitive tool. We can read tea leaves. We can read leaves themselves. We can read so many different using objects that create unpredictable patterns and be able to read those patterns. So that is divination. And the important thing about divination is that we use divination in order to help us make choices, because we're always making choices. Every day is full of so many choices. And what so many of us are discovering and have discovered is that the original way we learn to make choices, which is through an inscrutable evidence, finding the pathway with the most factorial evidence of this is the way, this is what I should do, it's so limited. And it often doesn't work. It doesn't lead us to where we want to go. And so we're looking for other ways to make choices, to predicting the best outcome. And that is why we use divination. All right, so that's divination. Next word, oracle. So what does it mean to be an oracle? And feel free to share. Okay, so my definition of being an oracle is to know without inscrutable evidence, to know without inscrutable evidence. So divination is the practice, and being an oracle is the capability to know without inscrutable evidence. And so we might know about the future. We might know, so for me, one of my kind of oracle superpowers is to know what is hidden and out of view of our conscious minds. So about somebody's, the wounds that they carry, about their hidden gifts that they haven't yet accessed, about their hidden fears and desires. Okay, so these are things that we can know about other people without inscrutable evidence. We can also know about more than one people, so certain groups. So it could be we can go to any size of groups, right? So it could be, you might have a circle, a group of people, a classroom of people, or a circle of women, and there's something that's happening with that's how that group is progressing. And so then we can go larger and larger. We can think about, people can be an oracle for organizations and know how the organization itself is progressing and what might be hidden. We can be an oracle for entire states, entire countries. We can look at the progress of what's going to happen along with a country. We can look at entire worlds. So we can sort of start expanding of how we use our oracle capabilities. And some people see really the micro, and other people tend to focus on the macro. And so it really depends on your own, where you kind of place your, what is your passion? Like what you desire to know about, and where you then channel, I'm going to go into that word next, those oracle capabilities. So, we can also know for plants, for animals, for non-sentient beings. And so yeah, there's so many ways that we each as individuals use our oracle capabilities. So, all right, that is oracle. And finally, the last word, as I mentioned, channeling. Okay, so what does it mean to channel? Because I'm going to use that word, and I use that word quite a bit in the work that I do. When I am being an oracle, I say that I am channeling. So to channel means, for me, this is my own definition, to receive information from a source that is larger than myself. To receive information from a source that is larger than my mind body, my mind and my physical body. Okay, so let that sit in for a moment, because that's going to mean something different for every person. So when we are doing divination, we are channeling. Also, when we are accessing our creativity, when we're in creative flow, when we're creating, whether it's something artistic, right? If you're writing something, if writing a book, painting a picture, whether you're designing a program, designing a layout, whenever you're accessing that place of that creativity deep within you, where like, I don't know where this is coming from, you're channeling. It's coming from a source that's bigger than your mind, which is very, very limited. Your mind is very limited. So oftentimes when we channel, we don't actually know where it's coming from, what that external, I don't want to say external, extra source is. Sometimes we do. Sometimes we do. And the deeper we go into our spiritual work, the more we sort of learn about kind of where it's coming from. So it could be coming from your highest self / soul / heart, right? Those are sort of 3 words I use in synonym. So that would be like your greatest self, the soul part of you, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this later, that exists beyond your physical body. It could be coming from a spirit guide and spiritual entity that you work with. It could be coming from source. So source being the energy that connects you to the whole of the universe. It can be coming from a lot of different sources, but you don't need to know the source in order to channel. That's what's really, really important. The only thing that's important when we sort of surrender to this channeling process is that we are assuming a spiritual, how do I want to say this? It requires a spiritual understanding of life, meaning that there is a greater force out there that is connecting everything in this universe. And you are a fractal of that whole, and that you have a purpose for that whole. So that's the only piece that is sort of required in order to channel, because you are connecting to a feeling and a sense of yourself that you're bigger than your mind. All right, so that is channeling. What do we got here? Flora, yeah, I know it's really helpful to define them, right? So that we can really we're not making any assumptions. Amber, hi Amber, glad you joined. Jessica is here too. Yay, thanks you guys for being here. Okay, so the only other piece I wanted to mention with channeling is that we can also channel from other dimensions. And I'm going to go into that more later. So when we channel, we're often also tapping into other dimensions other than our own. All right, so with that said, let's talk about time. So we talked about divination, oracle channeling, and then we're going to talk about for the future, right? So we're moving into the future, and we're going to talk about, in order to talk about how we do that for the future, this really requires us to look at time and to open up the discussion of what is time and how do you see time? So just take a moment right now and just question, how do you see time? What is time? How do you see time? How does time operate for you? What we're taught and what mainstream culture and society teaches us is that time is linear. And so it's like a straight line. So our life is here, and then we're going in this straight line like this, right? And so when we look at the present is here, the past is here. We took this line from the past to get to the present, and then we take another line this way to get to the future. So that's how most of us are taught about what time is. And the thing about that is that if we think that that's what time is, and we're using divination for the future, we are extremely limited, like crazy limited. And the reason is because of what I mentioned earlier. It's because we have free will. We can't account for that linear timelines in free will, because it's like we have our line here, and then somebody else has their line here. And so there's all these crisscrossing lines, right? And we think about free will and all of us having these crisscrossing lines. And if billions of people on this planet all have free will, then that creates infinite number of possible linear timelines. And so when we use divination, when we only look through the lens of the linear timeline, we are going to, when we see, let me go into this a little more detail too, with those linear timelines, meaning next week you'll meet this person, which then you'll go to this place, and then this thing will happen, and then your relationship will will do this, and then the two of you will do that. So it's like this series of sort of events that happen to you, sort of. It's like as if life is happening to you when you kind of receive a sort of or if you sort of try to predict the future in that way. And so I do not like that way at all, because when we use divination in that way, you are looking at and you are unearthing the most likely linear timeline. So you're finding the most likely possibility of what's going to happen, but so many so many factors can change that. So it's very, very unpredictable. Okay, so that's one way. And so there's another way, which I do embrace in many, many ways. And this sees time as a cycle and a spiraling, right? So it's sort of, so if you want to start here and it sort of cycles around, it changes a little bit every time it goes in a cycle, but it's like, and so it's kind of slowly moves like this. And so when we see time this way, we understand that the past and the present influence the future, and that we repeat cycles. We repeat patterns and cycles. So a cycle might be, for example, a year, right? So there's so many things that happen every year, the same time. So right now, the end of October, beginning November, every year we start to really go deep within ourselves, and we go through this process of release and letting go, right? Because we are sort of surrendering to the seasons, and our natural world is full of cycles, which we are a part of. And so we repeat that cycle. And then in every spring, we start to feel like we start to sort of open up, and we start to take action and take risks and move into life in sort of fresh and new ways, because we're embracing the new life within ourselves as the world around us also is embracing new life. Okay, so those are cycles that we are a part of, that is a way that time works for us. And we also, another way that this works is that we repeat patterns. So we have patterns in our life from the wounding that we experienced when we were very young, that we are trying to often break out of, or based on things that happen in our adult life that then rear its head again. And so those patterns repeat themselves in our lives until we sort of use our free will in order to break out of them. So so when we look at divination through this lens, through this idea of the future, then it is cycling and cyclical and is spiraling. It does open divination up. We can look at the future based on the past and the present, what we're currently moving through right now, and what has happened to us in the past that may be unresolved, and the things in the natural world that are going to repeat themselves. And in the divination work that I do, I definitely embrace this model of time, because it helps us, A, surrender to our natural worlds, and B, work through our healing, the healing that we need to do, and break through those patterns that we're dealing with. Okay, with that said, there's a big but here, but it's still limited. This wheel of time is still limited, because it still does not account fully for free will. In this view of time, there are still going to be things that happen to us that we cannot predict. There's still going to be choices that we make that fully break those patterns and that take us in a different direction. that change the cycles that we're moving through. So, although I embrace this model of time, it is not the only time model that we can use when we're divining for the future. So, Forrest is speaking my language. Oh, you have a little spiral emoji. I like that. I like that emoji. I'll have to find that on my phone. So, okay, so here's the third way to look at time. Here's the third way to look at time, which frees us up entirely when we are divining for the future. This third way sees time as an illusion. As an illusion. Time, through this third way of looking at it, is something that helps us in our human experience, with our human minds and our human bodies, organize ourselves. In this dimension, we use time to organize our lives. And so it's a really important piece of our lives, of we need time. But in other dimensions, here's the thing. In other dimensions, time actually doesn't exist. The future exists now as much as it does later on. The past exists as much now as it did then. So when we see time this way, it takes a little while to sort of wrap yourself around that idea, because our minds are so attached to time. And so to open ourselves up to the possibility that we do live in a universe with so many different dimensions. We live only in one dimension, which is ruled by time, and in other dimensions, time does not exist. Time does not exist. So the wonderful thing about this, when we see time in this way, is that divination opens up entirely. If we can when we channel from other dimensions, we can see the future clearly. Okay? Not everything about the future, but some very specific things, which is really helpful for our spiritual journeys. Because it's not based, when we channel from other dimensions to look at the future, we are not looking at our linear timelines. We are not looking at, I'm going to do this and I'm going to meet that person and then I'm going to go that place. We're not looking at our human experience. We are not being limited. We're not looking at what happened in the past. It's based on what's happening in the present and the future. What we're doing is we're looking at our spiritual path and our spiritual destiny. So we are reading into our spiritual soul selves and the path that we will inevitably take throughout our life, because our soul is on a journey. So this is the evolution of our soul in our human experience. The evolution of our soul through this human experience. What's happening to us in our human bodies, that includes a lot of other factors. But the part of you, we're looking at, and we're reading into the part of you, the part of me, the part of all of us that exists beyond our human experience, that exists not just in this human body. And then giving us guidance for this human journey and this human journey. So, okay, so that might be a lot to chew on. Like, whoa, this is getting really deep and really complex. Let me talk a little bit about, let's go back to the paradox. Because that's going to help. Okay, so the paradox. you have free will. Everyone else on this planet has free will, which creates an infinite number of possible linear timelines and possibilities for the future. You're a spiritual being, and you have an inevitable spiritual path, which is going in one direction because you have a purpose to fulfill for the greater whole. So it is taking you, guiding you, leading you through that path. Okay? So I'm just looking at my notes because I don't want to get lost. Okay. Whatever happens, this is the thing to remember. Whatever happens on your, regardless of your free will, you have free will, all these different linear timelines exist for you in the future. Whatever happens over here does not impact this. It does not impact this. And so it seems at first glance that these are totally separate, but actually they come together. And that is the paradox. That is where the magic happens. Because when you bring the two together, you actually realize that you do have choice. That the choices that you have are how you choose to show up in your life when you are walking down your spiritual path. Okay, so, and I'm going to go into this a little bit more, but okay, actually, let me say this, and then I'm going to give an example, and then I'm going to go into it more. So, how you choose to show up in your life, whether that is through grace and surrender, or whether that is with struggle and resistance, that is a choice that you have when you accept that you are on a spiritual path. The other choice that you have is that of where and how the path shows up for you. Okay, so this is what I mean by that is, say you're receiving a lesson on your spiritual path of learning how to cope with change. Okay, and I'm going to go into this a little more, that our spiritual path is full of lessons. And so that you receive a lesson, your spiritual path is taking you into a lesson of learning how to cope with change. So you're going to hit some change. Some change is going to come your way. Where that comes in is actually up to your free will and your human self, where you are focusing your energy upon. Maybe that is going to be in your romantic relationships. And so maybe you're going to go through a major breakup. Maybe that's going to happen in your career life. So maybe you're going to lose your job. Maybe it's going to happen in your finances, and you're going to all of a sudden experience a major shift and dive. All a lesson to help you cope with loss and change. So that is a gift that we have in our human journeys of being able to bring the lessons that we are to learn into these areas of our lives that we most need them. Okay, so what happens along our spiritual paths, the reason, so how our spiritual paths sort of work are that we're given lessons and we're given gifts. And often the lessons turn into gifts, and most lessons are gifts, and they often just don't feel like gifts at first because lessons tend to be more challenging. Gifts tend to be very expansive and joyful. Okay, so we're giving lessons and gifts. That's really what our spiritual paths look like. And we're giving lessons and gifts in order to improve our human experience so that we enjoy and have a better human experience, and to improve our lives, and B, to benefit the whole. Okay, so it benefits the collective. So there's a greater purpose, and so there's a sort of individual benefit, and then there's a collective benefit. So yes, so they can be challenging, and they can be joyful. They can feel very contractory, very limiting at first, and they can feel very expansive. And they're all actually moving us towards a more expanding and opening ourselves more and more and more to our greatest potential, more and more to aspects of ourselves that are hidden and out of view, more and more towards using our gifts in this world to benefit the greater good. So everything, when we're looking at life like this, that life is a spiritual journey, everything that happens to us is a lesson or a gift. A lesson and a gift, actually. So, is there anything else I want to say about that? And so coming back to our free will and being able to use our free will to choose how we cope with those lessons and gifts, whether we surrender and embrace or whether we struggle and fight it, that we have that choice. Along this path also, there's going to be moments that are full of action and movement, and there's going to be other moments that where we actually feel like we're moving backwards and that we're contracting or that are very still. And those are also all part of the plan. So being able to combine seeing time, reading time, divining the future through this view of time as an illusion and time as a spiral is sort of the perfect balance. And I'm going to go into talking a little about my offering right now, which has evolved every year. And this year is a totally new layout of the sacred map because it more fully embraces time as an illusion and looking at your spiritual path and journey. I also include, it's important to include the other component of time as a spiral and a cyclical because it grounds us in our human experience, because we need both. So I want to share a little bit about the map itself, because I channeled the layout for this as a way to help women who are stepping into leadership expand into their sort of the greatest opportunities, open to the greatest opportunities for them of expansion. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about the layout of it so you can get sort of the juicy details. Hi, Lisa. Thanks for joining. And okay, so there's four components of these sacred maps, which, by the way, I'll say now, is not something that it's delivered to you in a PDF with a beautiful image, and then it has descriptions of everything, and I'm going to walk through what that's going to look like. And this is not something you open once and you read through and you're like, oh, that's kind of fun to learn about. Oh, wow, okay, oh, that might happen. Oh, you know, it's not sort of for your entertainment purposes for the moment. This is a tool and companion for you to use through all 12 months of 2019. I am completely, I emphasize that over and over again. This is for you to come back to every month. This is an investment in your 2019. So we start at the top of the mountain, okay? So this is the top of the mountain view of seeing your year with 4 cards. And I do use tarot cards as my divination tool, combined with my psychic abilities, my intuitive abilities, and my inner sense of knowing, okay? So we have 4 cards that are the top of the mountain. And I call this your compass, because this is going to give you sort of a look at what is the purpose, what is your purpose this year, this coming year. You're going to look at the gift and lesson that you have to learn. You're going to look at the path that you're going to take, the easiest path for you as a human being through that process in order to fully open that lesson, learn the lesson, and open to the gifts. We're also going to, and I'm doing this because I'm going through the 4 cards. This is how it's laid out. We're also going to look at your greatest challenge. Okay, so what is going to be creating the greatest kind of roadblocks and challenges for you? What's going to sort of be tripping you up? And then what is the newly awakened aspect, something within you that's going to further expand you into your gifts, that's going to actually serve you to help you overcome and move through those blocks and unlock, learn your lesson and unlock your gift. Okay, so that is as the diamond shape. And when you're looking at the map, it's actually the center diamond. But if you see the map actually in sort of a 3D form, it's actually at the top. So it's at the top of a diamond-shaped mountain. Okay, so that's 4 cards. Next, we go into the map part of the map, which is 12 cards, and this is the base of the mountain. This is you actually walking around the base of the mountain. So you're going to receive 1 card for each month of the year, which is going to give you a look at where your energy is going to be focused that month, what you're going to be moving through specifically that month. Not in terms of your linear timeline, but in terms of your cyclical and spiritual path. Okay, so it might be one, it might be a combination of both. And then you'll use that top of the mountain view to look at how to best move through those energies. All right, you're with me so far. So that's the outer diamond. Then the third part is going to be your focal points. And this is where we bring in your beautiful divine free will, because you get to choose now 2 focal points. Where do you want 2019 to go? What do you want to be focusing on? What are you trying to unwrap for yourself? And this is where you get to focus your energies into your year. And so I provide a list of possible questions, whether it's looking at deeper into relationships, career, finances, health, family, soul's purpose, spiritual gifts. There's a lot of different questions. You can choose from those, or you can make them up. So as long as it's an open-ended question. Okay, so those are the focal points. And when I'm used with those focal points, I actually often expand into other oracle decks. And so it's really going to be based on the questions that you ask. And then I go to my decks, and my decks will tell me which deck is going to want to provide the answer for that question. So, okay, so those are focal points. And so that creates the sort of PDF that you get. And I go into detail with every card that I draw for you. I read through the lens of like tarot knowledge, but mostly through intuition. I've been reading tarot cards for so many years that the sort of the meanings of the cards don't really matter that much to me anymore. So I read through the energy and the images on the card, and through the psychic messages that come through for you through me. So, okay, so that, and then you receive an image too, and so you can look at the cards yourself and be able to access your own divination and creative abilities. And then the last part, and this is something new that I've added this year, which I'm really excited about, is that you get a 30-minute clarification and deepening session, one-on-one session with me. And so this is, okay, because this is what inevitably happens. You open it, you read through, you feel freaking overwhelmed. Doubt comes up, fear comes up, confusion comes up, right? So because we can't help but read our maps partly through our ego minds that see time as in a linear path, right? So we're kind of focused on what's going to happen. It's totally normal. And so these sessions are a chance for you to get fully out of your mind into your spiritual self, into your emotional body, to really feel into and surrender to what's happening, and also get deeper information. I hold loving, compassionate space for you just to bring it, however that you are feeling, whatever you're thinking, and to bring you fully into the energies that are present in your map. So you can sort of tune into it. It's like sort of tuning your body and mind as an instrument in order to read your map. You can also, this is also an opportunity for you to come with specific questions you have about certain information in your map that you'd like to sort of dig deeper into, right? And so in that session, I will be channeling for you to look deeper into that stuff that's come up for you. All right, so that's the map. How does this help you? So you might be wondering, well, okay, so if I am on a spiritual path and it's inevitable, then what's the point? And that's a really good question. Because we don't look at this stuff for entertainment purposes. This is not for our own entertainment. It's not just for like, that's cool. I mean, that's if you buy the map and you open it once and you put it away, okay? It's not for entertainment purposes. So the greatest service and the reason why we invest in these maps is that it allows us to use our free will to our greatest service. So to really fully unlock that paradox of free will and spiritual destiny. And so that we can use our free will to help us on our spiritual path. Because here's the thing about time. Like we talked about time all these different ways. Time can speed up and slow down so much. It really can. We can slow down our path tremendously when we are really struggling, when we hit a block and we just kind of dig ourselves in, like we're sort of digging ourselves into the ground, into our earthly experience. So there's always going to be moments where in our human experience, we dig in and we get stuck. And so how can we have tools available to us that help us get unstuck and help us move more quickly through these moments so that we can keep journeying, we can keep progressing, and that we can be in our spiritual journey in a way that feels so much more joyful, so much more easeful, so much more peaceful, has less struggle, less suffering. And so we can then reach whatever goals we have, whatever mission that we are on, we can reach those goals, we can fulfill those missions so much more quickly. We're moving through it so much more quickly. So that is the greatest gift of these sacred maps. It allows you to move through whatever you're moving through with so much more grace and ease and quicker. It allows you to speed up time. Time is so malleable. You get to, since time is an illusion now, you get to play with it. It gets to be what you want it to be. Another really practical aspect of these sacred maps is it allows you to plan out your year. Okay, so those of you who are planners, right, activating that like linear time, that linear brain, it gets to be like, ooh, okay, so when am I going to when's the best time to maybe look for a new job? When's the next best time to launch this program? When maybe is a good time to travel? When is a good time? Okay, so I need to have like this operation. When's a good time to schedule that this year, right? So all these things that we know that we want to do, that we need to do, we can start to really feel into when is the most optimal energy to do that. Okay, so this is a wonderful aspect, and this creates benefit right away. The third piece is that it really allows you to surrender to your healing journey. So your sacred map sort of acts as, it's something that sort of holds you and comforts you. And in the testimonials that people have written for me who have purchased these in the past, they have used words, and I'm quoting them, these are not words I have used, that their secret map was a seatbelt for the wild ride that they were on, was a lighthouse. A lighthouse helped them come back to themselves over and over again. There was let's see, what other words? A good friend. There was a good friend that understood everything that they were going through. And a spiritual companion, someone who was walking, a spiritual entity that's like walking alongside them through everything that they're moving through. And so your spiritual map is a way for you to just to constantly come back to yourself over and over again, and to remain really, really grounded in yourself, with trust, with confidence. A way to really be grounded in that day-to-day human reality, to be able to connect that day-to-day human reality with something that's bigger. You know, that there's a meaning and a purpose to every moment, to every day. And it adds this sense of wonderment and meaning to our everyday life, knowing this. Good morning, Karen. Thanks for joining. It's because, okay, so, and this is a reality, and this is a reality that I'm sure all of you embrace, that we wouldn't be interested and invested in getting these sacred maps if we didn't already know that things are going to change. And we want things to change. We want life to change. If life doesn't change, everything stays the same, and then we stay the same, and it's boring. So we want things to change, and also it's really hard when things change. It's really challenging, you know, embracing and flowing through change. It's challenging. Even when we embrace change on this side, there's always a part of ourselves that is really struggling with change. And these sacred maps allow you to fully surrender and embrace change with so much more ease and grace. So, okay. All right, so what I'm going to do now, I'm going to post the link. So I'm going to post two links here. So the first is the link with all the information, a lot of the stuff I already talked about here on this call, the whole layout, what's included with the benefits. Okay, it goes into all the details, has a lot of testimonials from people who purchased these in the past. Again, it's a different layout this year. It's bigger, it's broader, it's more fully into that's the spiritual past. Time is an illusion, tapping into the other dimensions, getting information from that realm. Okay, but the testimonials, so there's a lot of testimonials for people from the last year, and so knowing that those testimonials were from last year, and this year it's even better. That's all I have to say about that. Okay, so that's the link to learn all about it. There's also a link on that page to then purchase it, but I'm going to also paste the link to purchase it if you're ready to go right now, because I have a little extra gift that I want to share with you if you are ready to purchase your sacred map. And so, okay, so what's included? And so if you purchase, you get early bird discount. The price is going up $111 on December 16th. Okay, so until December 16th, it's $333, and it's going to go up to $444. And it includes that compass, the inner diamond, top of the mountain, 4 cards. It includes the 12, the map, walking around the mountains, card for every month of the year. It includes those 2 focal points, includes that one-on-one session with me. Plus, okay, so this is what I'm excited about. If you've made it, I want to honor those of you who've made it to the end of this video and are fully invested. So I want to give you an extra little gift. And so that gift is a intuitive guide for December intuitive guide. This is a PDF, and it is a guide to help you bring closure to this year, to help you to come to a place of completion for this year, to really integrate. What have you learned? What have you embraced? What have you released? And then come to a place of stillness, completion, and blank slate to then prepare you and lift you off into 2019. So, okay, so the details. So there's a lot of little juicy bits in the intuitive guide. It's a PDF to help you with this. There is a guided meditation which takes you to your sacred temple and allows you to integrate what you've learned this year and then receive your next lesson for next year. So you're exercising your intuitive, your divination, your oracle capabilities through this guide, by the way. It helps you synthesize, oh, sorry, I already said that. It includes a guide from the tarot. So a way to sort of connect to the energies of the major arcana of the tarot. And so there's one card that you'll focus on, which is actually the world, and to use some prompts to really understand that energy and sort of integrate it. And there's actually quite a few. There's several different card prompts to use with your own oracle decks, your own tarot decks, and there's an exercise an activity, rather, I should say, to exercise your intuition. And there's a full spread for you to do too if you love using cards and want to draw multiple cards at once. So it's really a way for you to deepen into your intuition, exercise your intuition, and close out the year. So if you want that guide, if you're ready to purchase now and you also want the guide, go ahead and make the purchase, and then just send me a message anyway by email. If you're on Facebook, you can leave a comment on this video. You can send me a message via Facebook Messenger and just say December guide. Just say the 2 words December and guide, and I will include that little extra gift with your sacred map. Okay. So I mentioned this before, you know, my greater mission is to how should I say this? Help awaken, that's a good word to use, help awaken compassionate leaders. That is my greatest purpose, is to help awaken compassionate leaders for this world. A new kind of leader who leads from their heart, who embraces all their emotions, all their feminine energy, and leads from that place. And so my purpose through this map is to help you fully awaken to your leadership potential and capabilities and gifts. And that's where I'm focusing the energy on in this map. And so I'm calling in women who desire to open more fully to their leadership gifts and capabilities, who are ready to serve on a greater level. For those who are ready really to walk their greatest path. I share everything about this spread. If you go to that link, it's all there. You are free to use this for yourself if you wanted to. You're totally free to use this for yourself. It's open source. I don't hide or hold back anything, right? This was channeled to me for you all. Okay, so you're free to use it. You are free to go to another person to get, if you're really excited about getting a next year reading, you're welcome to go to someone else too. You might choose to do that. You may be inspired just to draw your own cards and create your own sacred map, like to channel another layout for yourself. That might also be a possibility. But, and what I'm hoping is that through watching this video, you choose to use information that you've received. If you're really excited about this, if you see the great potential of receiving the gifts of divination for your coming year, to invest in a sacred map from me, because it really, beyond, I'm not going to say about how other people, how their readings will line up, but I can say that if you choose to do this for yourself, it does limit you in some ways. Your ego comes in, your emotions come in. That's what happens when we draw cards for ourselves. We don't fully see the biggest picture. We're not seeing it from a clear, objective lens. I am a clear, objective, pure channeled lens for you. I've been doing this a long time, and it simply comes through as a direct messages for you. And then I am there to translate those messages for you in a loving, compassionate way to help your human side integrate it, and then walk even further with you through that session of helping you digest it as well, so that you can really, really receive the oracle messages that come through, that are gifted to us through other dimensions, that do not hold linear time, that are not operating on time. This is a gift given to us from other dimensions, so that you can fully, fully unlock it, unwrap it, and integrate that wisdom and that information for yourself, so that you then are free to use your free will in wonderful ways, to speed or slow time as you want, to move through things gracefully as you choose, to focus your energy on those aspects of your life that you want to focus on. So that frees you to use your free will in wonderful, amazing ways. All right. That is all that I have to share with you. Any questions? Let me have it. Feel free to message me, Facebook Messenger. Feel free to post here. If you're watching this video via YouTube or in an email, feel free to email me. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much for watching this through and spending this time with me. All right.